Ambassador Doyen Kim walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime Station for what he knew would be the last time. His reflection moved beside him in the transparent walls, and he barely recognized the tired man staring back. 63 years old with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes. 30 years he had served here. 30 years of fighting for scraps of respect. The council chamber rose before him like a monument to arrogance. Massive pillars reached toward a ceiling so high it disappeared into artificial clouds. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated seats, arranged in circles that spiraled upward. Humans sat at the bottom. They always sat at the bottom. Doyun took his place in the human section. Captain Jiwan Park sat beside him, her military uniform crisp despite the long journey from the border fleets. On his other side, Dr. Hyerin Lee reviewed data on her tablet, her fingers moving with the nervous energy of someone who knew bad news was coming. High Arbiter Kalarn materialized at the center podium, the crystalline being pulsed with cold blue light, its form shifting between solid and translucent. Its voice echoed through the chamber without need for speakers, resonating in the bones of every creature present. "We gather to celebrate 300 years since humanity joined the Galactic Council," Kalarn announced. 3 centuries of service. 3 centuries of contribution. Doyen felt his stomach tighten. The word contribution always meant they wanted something. In recognition of this milestone, Kalarn continued, "The Council has prepared a special honor for humanity. The Compliance Mandate." A holographic document appeared in the air above them. Doyen read the first line and felt his blood go cold. Councillor Vrax rose from his seat. The insectoid's mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he spoke. His species, the Thalarians, had never hidden their contempt for humans. They saw humanity as useful animals, nothing more. "The mandate has 3 parts, Vrax explained, his voice buzzing with pleasure. "First, humanity will surrender all military encryption codes and provide unrestricted access to Earth defense networks. Second, humanity will transfer control of all colonial infrastructure to Council oversight. Third, humanity will provide 50,000 children between ages 8 and 16 for the Genetic Diversity Program." The chamber fell silent. Beside Doyen, Jiwan's hand moved to her sidearm before she caught herself. Heron had stopped breathing. Doyen stood slowly. "May I speak?" "You may," Kalarn replied. "This is not an honor," Doyen said, keeping his voice steady. "This is slavery. You are demanding our security, our autonomy, and our children. In exchange for what?" Vrax laughed, a horrible chittering sound. "In exchange for continued membership in the Council, of course. You should be grateful. You should be honored to serve your betters." "Our betters?" Jiwan stood now, her voice sharp. "We have bled for this Council for 300 years. We have defended borders you were too afraid to patrol. We have solved problems you could not understand. We have saved billions of your people with our medicine, our engineering, our sacrifice. And you call yourselves our betters?" Several council members shifted uncomfortably, but Kalarn's light pulsed brighter, colder. "Captain Park, you forget yourself," the High Arbiter said. "Humanity exists in Council space by our grace. You occupy worlds we permitted you to settle. You trade along routes we maintain. You benefit from our protection." "Your protection?" Hyerin spoke up, her voice shaking with rage. "Last year, the Crimson Plague threatened 17 worlds. Who developed the cure? My team. 10 years ago, the terraform stations on Velar 9 began failing. Who fixed them? Human engineers. 20 years ago, the Devourers tried to break through the barrier at Sector 9. Who held the line for 6 months while you debated what to do? Human soldiers." She stood, her tablet falling forgotten to the floor. "We have given everything. And you respond by demanding our children? By demanding we hand over our defenses so you can control us completely? This is not partnership. This is not cooperation. This is exploitation." Vrax clicked his mandibles dismissively. "If you find the terms unacceptable, you are welcome to leave Council space. Of course, without our support, humanity would collapse within months. You need us far more than we need you." Doyen looked around the chamber. Some representatives looked uncomfortable. Most looked bored. A few nodded in agreement with Vrax. Nobody spoke in humanity's defense. After 300 years, they had no true allies here. "Only users and exploiters. How long do we have to respond?" Doyen asked quietly. 30 days, Kalarn replied. "If you do not comply, we will impose economic sanctions and military occupation of your outer colonies. This is not negotiable. This is the price of membership," Doyen nodded slowly. He looked at Jiwon, then at Hyerin. In their eyes, he saw the same thing he felt in his heart. Enough. After 3 centuries, it was finally enough. Then we will give you our response in 30 days, Doyen said. He turned and walked out of the chamber. Jiwon and Hyerin followed. Behind them, Vrax's laughter echoed off the crystal walls. The emergency session on Earth lasted 3 days. Representatives from every human colony attended via hologram. Military commanders, scientists, engineers, teachers, parents, everyone had a voice. The debate raged without stop. Some argued for war. Earth had built its military carefully over 3 centuries, always preparing for the day when the Council might turn on them. But the numbers were impossible. Humanity controlled 50 systems. The Council controlled thousands. Others argued for compliance. Give them what they want, survive, find another way later. But Hyerin stood before the assembly and spoke truth that silenced that option. If we give them our children once, they will ask again. If we give them control of our defenses, we will never be free. If we accept this, we accept that we are slaves. And our children and their children will be slaves forever. Is that what we choose? Is that what 300 years of service has earned us? The right to be owned? The chamber fell silent. Captain Jiwon stood next. She had commanded fleets for 20 years. She had seen more combat than any human alive, and she proposed something nobody had considered. We leave, she said simply. All of us. Every human in council space. Every engineer, every doctor, every soldier, every teacher. We withdraw completely. We seal our borders. We cut all contact. We walk away. They will collapse without us, someone objected. Yes, Jiwon replied. They will. And maybe then they will understand what we were worth. Maybe then they will learn that we were never their servants. We were their foundation. And foundations can choose to walk away. The vote was unanimous. In 300 years of membership in the Galactic Council, humanity had never agreed on anything so completely. They would leave. All of them. And they would do it in silence. The evacuation began the next morning. Quietly. Carefully. No announcements. No warnings. Human workers simply stopped showing up to their posts. Human ships began departing stations without explanation. Human families packed their belongings and boarded transports heading for Earth and the independent colonies. The Council barely noticed at first. Vrax sent a few contemptuous messages demanding humanity hurry with their compliance. Kalarn issued statements about the importance of duty. They thought it was posturing. They thought humanity was trying to negotiate. They had no idea that humanity had already made their choice, and by the time they realized, it would be far too late. Engineer Minseo Choi stood in the control room of Velar 9's terraform station and looked at the system she had maintained for 12 years. Giant machines hummed around her, pumping breathable air into the atmosphere of a world that 3 billion people now called home. Without these machines, the planet would become toxic within weeks. She had built half of these systems herself. She knew every pipe, every sensor, every backup protocol. The Thalarian supervisors who supposedly ran this station barely understood how to read the displays. They just signed reports and took credit for her work. Now she was leaving. Her transport departed in 2 hours. She looked at the main console and made a decision. She would not sabotage anything. That would be cruel to the billions living below. But she would take something with her. She would take the knowledge. Minseo accessed the station database and deleted every maintenance manual, every technical diagram, every troubleshooting guide that existed only in human languages or human notation systems. She left the basic operational instructions, enough to keep things running if nothing went wrong. But when something failed, and something always failed, they would have no idea how to fix it. She erased her personal logs, her improvement notes, her repair schedules. Then she walked out without saying goodbye to anyone. Across council space, the same scene repeated thousands of times. Human engineers left their posts. Human doctors closed their clinics. Human teachers stopped coming to their classrooms. Human soldiers abandoned their border stations. Human merchants shut down their businesses. Director Sun Woo-han coordinated the evacuation from a ship in deep space. His screens showed the exodus in real time. Red dots representing human populations blinked out one by one as transports lifted off and jumped to hyperspace. It was the largest organized withdrawal in galactic history, and somehow the Council still had not noticed. On day 7, Councillor Vrax finally sent a message to Ambassador Doyen. The tone was irritated but not concerned. Ambassador, We have noticed some disruption in human work schedules. Please ensure your people understand that their duties continue until the compliance mandate is resolved. This tantrum will not help your negotiations. Doyen did not respond. He was already aboard a ship heading home. By day 10, half of all humans had left council space. The impact started becoming visible. Trade routes that human navigators had managed for centuries began experiencing delays. Ships got lost. Some vanished into hazardous regions because the warning buoys maintained by human engineers had started. Failing medical facilities struggled as human doctors and researchers departed. Dr. Heron's research team had been responsible for monitoring 17 different diseases. Without them, health officials had no idea if new outbreaks were beginning. On Nexus Prime Station, the sanitation systems began backing up. Turns out the human maintenance crew had been doing more than anyone realized. The Quill workers who replaced them stood in front of the control panels with bewildered expressions, unable to read the interface. By day 15, the council started to panic. 3/4 of all humans were gone. Critical infrastructure was failing, and Earth had stopped responding to all communications. High Arbiter Kalarn called an emergency session. The chamber filled with confused and angry representatives. Everyone had questions. Nobody had answers. Where are the humans? A Phylaxian counselor demanded. The defense grid at Sector 12 is completely unmanned. We have reports of raiders moving through the area. My world is running out of medicine, another representative said. The human medical shipments have stopped. The human doctors have disappeared. What is happening? Frax clicked his mandibles nervously. This was not supposed to happen. Humans did not have the courage to actually leave. They needed the council too much. Or so he had thought. Send a fleet to Earth, Frax suggested. Bring them back. Remind them of their obligations. Our fleet cannot get to Earth, the military commander reported. The humans controlled the navigation data for that entire region. Without their charts, we would be jumping blind through hazardous space. Half our ships would be lost. The chamber erupted in shouting. Kalarn pulsed with agitated light, trying to restore order, but the truth was settling over them like a cold weight. They had no idea what humans actually did. They had taken human work for granted for so long that they never bothered to learn. By day 23, the situation had become critical. Food shipments were failing because human logistics networks had collapsed. Several stations reported life support problems, and the defense perimeter at Sector 9, where humans had held back the devourers for 2 centuries, was now completely abandoned. On day 28, a council delegation managed to reach Earth's border. They broadcast messages on all frequencies demanding to speak with human leadership. They promised negotiations, compromises, anything. Just come back. The response came from an automated defense station. No living being. Just a recorded message in a cold, artificial voice. You are entering Earth Alliance space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning. The delegation tried to push forward. The defense station fired a warning shot across their bow. They retreated. On day 30, the last human left council space. Captain Jiwon Park commanded the final convoy personally. Her fleet of military vessels escorted civilian transports through the border and into independent territory. Behind them, they left empty bases, abandoned equipment, and a council that was just beginning to understand what they had lost. As her ship crossed the final marker, Jiwon authorized the broadcast she had prepared. It went out on every council frequency simultaneously. Ambassador Doyen's face appeared on millions of screens across thousands of worlds. He looked tired but peaceful, like a man who had finally set down a weight he had carried too long. To the Galactic Council, Doyen began. For 300 years we served. We built your stations. We fixed your machines. We defended your borders. We healed your sick. We solved your problems. We died for your safety. We asked for only one thing in return: respect. Recognition that we were partners, not servants. Acknowledgement that we were equals, not tools. He paused and his expression hardened. You refused. You looked at our service and saw weakness. You looked at our cooperation and saw submission. You took everything we gave and demanded more. You demanded our security. You demanded our freedom. You demanded our children. You thought we had no choice. You thought we needed you. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet but filled with finality. You were wrong. We do have a choice, and we choose dignity. We choose freedom. We choose to walk away from people who see us as property. You will not hear from us again. You will not see us again. Learn to survive without us or do not. That is no longer our concern. Goodbye. The transmission ended. Across council space, the screens went dark, and in the silence that followed, the true weight of humanity's departure began to settle. They were gone. Really, truly gone. And they were never coming back. In the council chambers, Councillor Vrack stared at the empty screen with dawning horror. High Arbiter Kalarn pulsed with confused, frantic light. Other representatives began shouting questions, demands, accusations, but no one had answers. Because no one had ever considered this possibility, that humans might simply refuse to play anymore, that the servants might fire the masters, that the Foundation might choose to walk away and watch the building fall. The collapse had begun, and there was nothing the Council could do to stop it. The terraform station on Velar 9 failed in the second month after the humans left. It started small. A pressure valve stuck. An alert went ignored because nobody understood what it meant. By the time Thalarian engineers realized something was wrong, the cascade had begun. Breathable air production dropped by 30% in 6 hours. The backup systems activated automatically, but those systems needed maintenance that had not been performed. They ran for 2 days before they failed too. 3 billion people lived on Velar 9. The Council had exactly 11 days to evacuate them before the atmosphere became toxic. They did not have enough ships. They did not have enough time. And they did not have any human engineers who knew how to fix the station. 2 billion people made it off-world. The rest sealed themselves in emergency shelters and prayed the life support would last until help arrived. The Council promised help was coming, but the Council could barely help itself anymore. High Arbiter Kalarn stood before the emergency council session and tried to maintain authority. But the crystalline being's light flickered with uncertainty. Around the chamber, representatives shouted over each other. Order had broken down. 17 stations are reporting critical failures, a Quill administrator reported. We have tried to repair them. We cannot understand the systems, they are too complex. The trade routes are a disaster, a merchant representative added. We have lost 43 ships this month alone. They jumped into hazardous regions because we no longer have accurate navigation data. The humans maintain those databases. We do not know how. Food shipments have stopped reaching the outer colonies, another voice called out. The logistics networks have collapsed. People are going hungry. Soon they will riot. Councillor Vrack sat in his seat with his mandibles clamped shut. He had stopped speaking in these sessions. Everyone blamed him for the compliance mandate. Everyone blamed him for driving the humans away. He had become the most hated being in council space. But the worst news came in the 3rd month. Admiral Neris, commander of council military forces, delivered it personally. His hand shook as he activated the holographic display. The Devourers have breached containment at Sector 9, Neris said. We have lost contact with 14 colonies in that region. The chamber went silent. The Devourers, the species that had nearly destroyed the Council 200 years ago, the species that humanity had fought to contain. How is this possible? Kalarn demanded. We had barriers, defenses, containment protocols. The barriers were quantum-based technology, Neris explained. Human technology. We do not understand how they work. We tried to maintain them, but without proper knowledge, they degraded. 3 weeks ago, they failed completely. The Devourers came through immediately. Send the fleet to stop them, Vrack said weakly. What fleet? Neris replied bitterly. Our ships are scattered across council space trying to maintain order. Half of them have maintenance problems because we do not have human engineers anymore. The defense grid is full of holes, and even if we had a fleet, we do not have the tactics. Humans commanded our military strategy for 3 centuries. We relied on them to fight. We never learned how to do it ourselves. The Devourers advanced through council space like a plague. They consumed everything in their path. Planets, stations, ships. The council forces tried to fight back, but without human strategic support, they lost every engagement. Entire sectors fell in weeks. In the 4th month, the medical crisis hit. The Crimson Plague returned, then stellar fever, then void sickness. A dozen diseases that Dr. Hiron Lee and her team had been keeping under control suddenly exploded across multiple worlds. Without human researchers, there were no new vaccines. Without human doctors, there was no coordination of treatment. The death toll climbed into millions, then tens of millions. Hospitals overflowed. Medical supplies ran out. Panic spread faster than the diseases. By the fifth month, the economic collapse was complete. Trade had stopped. Manufacturing had halted. Energy production was failing across dozens of systems. Wars broke out between council members fighting over dwindling resources. The alliance that had lasted for 2,000 years was tearing itself apart. A Quill researcher named Tholen had been working in the archives since the second month. Nobody paid much attention to him. Everyone was too busy fighting fires. But Tholen had been asking a simple question. What exactly had humans been doing? He searched through 300 years of records, employment databases, project files, maintenance logs, medical records, military reports. Every time he found human involvement, he added it to his list. The list grew longer and longer. Humans had maintained the terraform stations. All of them. Humans had managed the trade routes. All of them. Humans had developed vaccines for 37 different diseases. Humans had designed the containment systems for 4 separate dangerous species. Humans had mediated conflicts that prevented wars. Humans had trained the soldiers who defended the borders. Humans had built the infrastructure that connected thousands of worlds. The list reached 10,000 pages. Tholen printed it and brought it to the council chambers during an emergency session. You need to see this, he told High Arbiter Kellarn. You need to understand what we lost. Kellarn looked at the massive document. The crystalline being's light dimmed as it read. Other representatives gathered around. They read in silence, page after page of human contributions, work that nobody had noticed, labor that everyone had taken for granted, expertise that seemed to have no value until it was gone. They did all of this? A representative whispered. All of this was humans? Yes, Tholen replied. And this is not complete. This is only what I could find in 5 months of searching. There is more. There is always more. They were everywhere, they fixed everything, they held everything together. And we never noticed. Kellarn set down the document with trembling appendages. The High Arbiter's voice, always so confident and cold, now sounded hollow. We did not exploit them, Kellarn said slowly. We depended on them. We built our entire civilization on their backs. And we called them servants. We called them lesser. We demanded they give us even more. What have we done? Nobody answered, because everyone in that chamber now understood the terrible truth. They had not been the masters. They had been parasites. And the host had finally had enough. In the 6th month, Vrax drafted a message to Earth. His pride was gone. His arrogance had died with 1 billion council citizens. Now there was only desperation. To the people of Earth, he wrote. We were wrong. We were blind. We were cruel. We took your service for granted. We treated you as tools when you were partners. We demanded submission when we should have offered respect. Please come back, name your price, name any terms. We need you, we are dying without you. He sent the message on every available channel. He waited for a response. It came 3 days later. Not from a human, from an automated system. Message received. There is no price. There are no terms. You had our partnership. You chose exploitation. You had our service. You demanded slavery. You had 300 years to treat us as equals. You refused. Now live with your choice. Do not contact us again. Vrax read the message and understood. There would be no negotiation, no bargaining, no second chance. The humans had made their decision. And it was final. He looked around his empty office. Outside the window, he could see Nexus Prime Station falling apart. Lights flickering, systems failing. The greatest station in council space dying slowly because nobody knew how to keep it alive. Vrax had spent his entire life believing in Thalarian superiority, in the natural order where some species served and others ruled. He had looked at humans and seen tools. useful objects, nothing more. Now he saw the truth. Humans had never been tools. They had been the builders, the maintainers, the defenders, the glue holding everything together, and the council had repaid them with contempt. The price for that contempt was civilization itself, and there was no way to pay it back. Part 4 Ambassador Hyun-woo Song watched the collapse from his station in neutral space. He was young for a diplomat, barely 30 years old. He had been assigned here 6 months before the compliance mandate. His job was to maintain relationships with the independent systems that refused to join the council. Now his job was to watch his former employers destroy themselves. His sensors tracked everything. The Devourers consuming sector after sector, the refugee ships fleeing toward any safe port, the desperate military actions that failed one after another, the complete breakdown of order. Part of him felt satisfaction. They deserved this. They had treated humanity like dirt for 300 years. Now they were learning what it meant to lose the people who held everything together. Good. Let them suffer. But another part of him felt something else, pity, sadness. He watched billions of innocent people die because their leaders were arrogant. He saw children crying in refugee camps because their worlds had fallen. He saw good people trying desperately to fix problems they never created. The council had been terrible to humanity. But not every individual in council space had been terrible. Many had been friends, colleagues, people who respected humans and opposed the compliance mandate. They were suffering too. Hyun-woo sent reports back to Earth every week. President Young-mi Kang read them personally. She asked him the same question each time. Should we help them? He never knew how to answer. 1 year after humanity's departure, the Devourers had consumed 40% of former council space. The containment effort was a disaster. Council forces had tried everything. They had studied old human tactical reports. They had attempted to rebuild the quantum barriers. They had thrown ship after ship at the problem. Nothing worked. The Devourers advanced steadily. They would not stop until they had consumed everything, and the council had no way to stop them. Admiral Naris sat in his command ship and looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed Devourer positions. They outnumbered his forces 3-1. His ships were falling apart from poor maintenance. His crews were exhausted, and he had no strategy that had any chance of success. He thought about Captain Ji-won Park. She had commanded the human fleets for 20 years. She had trained him personally. She had taught him everything he knew about tactics and strategy. And when the compliance mandate came, she had left without a word. He did not blame her. If someone had demanded his children and his freedom, he would have left too. But he missed her. He missed her expertise. He missed having someone who actually knew how to win. The council tried to reverse engineer human technology. They assembled teams of the best scientists from every species. They studied human equipment that had been left behind. They tried to understand how it worked. Every attempt failed. Human technology was not just advanced. It was designed in ways that required human thinking to understand. The systems were intuitive to human engineers, but completely alien to everyone else. It was like trying to read a book in a language you did not know, written in an alphabet you could not see. One station tried to restart a human-built reactor without proper understanding. The reactor exploded. 2,000 people died. The council banned all further attempts to use human technology. Delegations kept going to Earth's borders. Different groups tried different approaches. Some begged. Some threatened. Some offered massive payments. Some tried emotional appeals about shared history and common enemies. Every delegation met the same automated defense stations. Every delegation received the same message: turn back. Do not contact us again. Earth's borders had become an impenetrable wall. Nobody knew what was happening behind it. Sensors could not penetrate the defense screen. Communications were blocked. The humans had gone completely silent. They had cut themselves off from the galaxy entirely. Counselor Vrax became obsessed with getting through. He gathered a faction of hardliners who believed the only solution was force. Take Earth by military action, force humanity back into service, make them fix what they had broken. It took him 6 months to assemble a fleet. Every ship that could still fly, every weapon that still worked. It was not much. Most of the council military was busy fighting the Devourers or maintaining order in collapsing systems. But Vrax gathered what he could. He led the fleet personally. 200 ships. It was the largest military force the Council had managed to gather in the past year. Vrax believed it would be enough. Earth was one system. The Council had been thousands. Surely humanity could not resist this many ships. They reached Earth's border 18 months after the departure. Vrax broadcast a message on all frequencies. People of Earth, we demand you return to Council space immediately. We demand you restore the systems you abandoned. We demand you fulfill your obligations. If you refuse, we will use force. You have 1 hour to respond. The response came in 30 seconds, but it was not a message. It was a fleet. Ships emerged from hyperspace around Vrax's force. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Human warships with designs nobody had seen before. Technology that made Council sensors scream warnings. The fleet was 3 times larger than Vrax's force, and it was just the forward defense group. Admiral Jiwan Park's face appeared on every screen in Vrax's fleet. She looked older than when she left. Her hair had more gray, but her eyes were hard and certain. "Counselor Vrax," she said, "you made a mistake coming here. You thought we were weak because we served. You thought we were helpless because we left peacefully. You were wrong on both counts." She gestured, and the tactical display lit up. More human ships appeared. More weapon platforms. More defenses than the entire Council military possessed. "We spent 300 years building your civilization," Jiwan continued. "Do you think we spent no time building our own? We left because we chose peace. We chose dignity. We chose to walk away rather than fight. But if you force us to fight, you will learn exactly how powerful we really are." She leaned forward, and her voice dropped to ice. "Turn around. Go home. Do not come back. This is your only warning. If you fire even 1 shot, we will consider it an act of war. And you will lose that war in less than a day. Try us." Vrax stared at the display. His mandibles trembled. He had brought 200 ships to threaten Earth. Earth had responded with thousands. His fleet was surrounded. His weapons were obsolete. His forces were exhausted, and the humans looked ready to destroy him without breaking a sweat. He gave the order to retreat. His fleet turned and ran. Behind them, the human ships watched but did not pursue. They had made their point. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was not afraid, and Earth would never come back. When Vrax returned to Council space, his war faction dissolved. Nobody wanted to fight Earth anymore. Not after seeing what they faced. The message was clear. Humanity had left peacefully by choice. But they could have left violently. They chose mercy. The Council should be grateful for that choice. High Arbiter Kellarn made a public address after Vrax's failed expedition. The crystalline being stood before cameras broadcasting to what remained of Council space. Kellarn's light was dim now, faded. The arrogance was gone. What remained was something like wisdom, learned far too late. "People of the Council," Kellarn began, "I must speak truth that should have been spoken 300 years ago. We failed, not just in the compliance mandate, not just in driving humanity away. We failed in every day, every year, every decade that we treated our equals as our servants." Kellarn paused, the light pulsing with something that might have been shame. "We thought ourselves superior because we were old, because we had built this Council before humanity reached the stars. We looked at their service and saw weakness. We looked at their cooperation and saw submission. We never saw the truth. We never saw that they were strong enough to carry us all, and patient enough to do it for 3 centuries while we gave nothing back. This is not a crisis of resources. This is not a crisis of technology. This is a crisis of character. We failed the galaxy. We failed ourselves. And we failed humanity most of all. They deserved respect. They deserved gratitude. They deserved recognition as equals. We gave them contempt. And now we pay the price." The broadcast ended. Across Council space, people watched in silence. Some felt anger. Some felt grief. Some felt nothing anymore because they had lost too much already. But everyone understood. The collapse was not humanity's fault. It was theirs. And there was nobody left to blame but themselves.